So that's one way of working with more. You kind of try to extract the principles of how the forest works and try to put those in practice in that kind of setting. But we can stay in the home scale setting for the next few minutes and take a look at this forest garden. That's a much more manageable scale to work in. 1 hectare is quite big. I had to quit my job to be able to manage that site. Not everyone wants to quit their jobs. So if you want to do this on a hobby scale forest gardening, this is much more appropriate. And this place is outside Gävle on the east coast, about an hour north of Stockholm, an hour and a half maybe. The people who have this garden, they bought this house. It was a nice lawn. They put an apple tree in the lawn. It's like, okay, now we're done with the garden, all set. And then they got into touch with forest gardening. And they took a course with me. And they're like, wow, this is the solution to all our problems. Like everyone thinks about forest gardening. So they had this apple tree, which was a few years old, and it started to expand around it, starting to create a forest garden mini bed around this apple tree, which we see here, this apple tree. So they planted sea buckthorn, 2 female plants, 1 male plant in the middle here. They planted Saskatoon, a hazelnut behind it in a different bed, but it's kind of connected to this. This looks like some kind of gumi or something like that, not sure. Here we have Jerusalem artichokes behind the apple tree, and loads of perennial vegetables in the on the ground here. And here they fast forwarded succession using manure. They have a horse, so they get tons of horse manure. So just added this much or something like that here, just to add a lot of nutrients to this, so that they didn't have to add like wood chips and branches. They didn't have to plant nursing trees and so on. The stuff that we do, they just added lots of organic material and fast forwarded it really long way. And it looks terrific. This small patch is just 7, 8, 10 square meters. Very productive. Way more productive than the lawn was before, of course. And way more productive than a vegetable patch of the same size in this spot probably would be. And I also like the way how they combine this kind of wild feeling that forest gardens have with this more strict Swedish gardening ideal of a nice lawn and these stone edges here. So it's really nice. And they thought a lot about their neighbors. What will the neighbors say about our garden if we only have a forest garden? And they also wanted to have a lawn for the kids to play on. So this is one of the prime examples really of a polyculture when you work on a small scale. But it can also look like this in Sweden, in a Swedish home scale food forest. This is a forest garden in Gothenburg, which I had the great honor to go to last September. And this guy, he says he invests all his surplus into trees. He doesn't go on holidays very much, he just buys trees. So this guy grows pawpaw. Anyone who grows pawpaw? Except Janne?
I don't think. No, it's a Latin American.
Asimina, yeah. It's like in Swedish it's Asimina too. So this guy has a lot of pawpaw trees. I'll talk more about that. He has a nice big mulberry. It's the Swedish cultivar mulle. If I remember correctly, it's 12 years old on this behind the house. And he was saying, I'm so sorry, it's all black on the deck below the mulberry tree. I just couldn't pick them all. It was so much. I really tried to harvest, but it was like all squashed mulberries on the ground. To that, I can add that he has about 40 mulberry trees. Not all of them in the size, but it's like full of mulberry trees, really densely spaced in this garden too. He also grows magnolia vines, Chisandra, which is called something else in Chisandra. Yeah, okay, he also grows kiwi, and that's not none of those mini kiwis. It's real kiwi, the one you buy in the shops. And he says, as long as we don't have frost until mid-December, it's no problem. We usually have frost where I live at the end of August, so no frost until the middle of December is quite sounds quite crazy. But here in Gothenburg, close to the Atlantic Ocean or North Sea, it's milder, of course. This is growing zone 2, I think, or something like that. So it would be zone 1 in Finland. And so this is also one thing you can do. You can just, the reason why I show this garden, it's not like structure-wise, it's not the most brilliant, shining example, but when it comes to the crops, this is stuff you can't buy in the shops usually. You can buy some dried mulberries, but it's hard to find Swedish-grown, organic, fresh mulberries. I don't think you can buy that in Sweden anywhere. You definitely can't buy pawpaw fruit anywhere in Northern Europe. Shisander you can find in some health shops. It's really expensive, but you can grow it yourself. Even we can grow this in our setting. And kiwis, of course, you can buy, but no homegrown kiwis. So we can, by establishing forest gardens, we can get tastes that we just can't get anywhere else. And the quality of food that we can't get anywhere else. You can't buy this for money. You can buy the trees, of course, for money, but you can't buy the crops for money, usually. And when the reason I was in Gothenburg in September was that we were supposed to get this award, the Gardening Book of the Year. There's a book fair every fall in Gothenburg, and we got invited. And we knew that we were going to get this prize, otherwise I wouldn't have gone to Gothenburg probably, to the book fair. And then my friend called me and said, hey, do you want to come and look at the pawpaw plantation this guy has? One of my friends who's also into forest gardening. He said, yeah, of course I want to see it. And he said, yeah, I think he's going to get a harvest this year. We tasted some last week. And I was like, okay, sounds interesting. And this guy, Bosse, he is, or was up until then, the only one in Sweden, to my knowledge, or the only one in the north, to my knowledge, who had received or gotten fruit from the pawpaw tree. And that was, I think, in 2015, one fruit from one tree. And he said it was really difficult with pollination. I think in the wild, the pawpaw needs some kind of meat-eating, or what do you call them? Fly that kind of has to come into the... So he had put up like dead meat in the trees to attract some kind of similar animal, but I think it was hand-pollinated, that one. He ran around with a brush to pollinate all his pawpaw trees. And he also has pawpaw trees of this size, but still very little fruit. Just one, to my knowledge, so far. So I was really excited to get there to this place, to see this pawpaw plantation. I thought he had only pawpaw, and then I was met by mulberries all over the place, magnolias, even all kinds of other crazy species that I just read about. They were all there and like 5 meters tall. We bought them the same year and just planted them. Yeah, you have to invest €1,000 in a plant, otherwise it's not worth it. Kind of like that. And I was asking, yeah, maybe we can taste a pawpaw potentially. It was that was my friend was saying that maybe potentially we're going to get to taste one, but they usually don't ripen out in the open. You have to ripen them indoors, so I'm not sure we're going to get to taste one. Maybe we can taste one. And then we went in there, and I was asking, do you have one indoors? Maybe we can taste one. And he's like, no, we're going to harvest them outdoors. Many of them are ripe now. It's like, many? What are you talking about? Many pawpaws in Sweden? I said, no, let's go. So we went into this. I think it was a pawpaw jungle, and it's like, okay, that's lots of pawpaw trees. And when I kind of went down into it, I saw it was full of fruit. There was hundreds of them. I was like, no, this can't be true. So we had a pawpaw party. We just took the ones that were perfectly ripe. So we went touching them all over the place, and some of them were really soft and nice. So I was like all excited, can we go in and taste them? Yeah, we're going to have a pawpaw party. Just wait, I have to show you the rest of the garden. So I was really impatient. We were walking around for almost 2 hours in this garden. All the pawpaws were in a basket, and I was like, oh, I need to taste the fruit. I was just like kind of fantasizing about the taste, and it's going to be such a disappointment. Because I'd read that pawpaws are often, wild ones are often quite bitter and astringent and so on. That you have to find the right cultivar, which is going to be nice tasting. And most of his plants are seeding plants, so I was really trying to dampen my expectations. And then we went inside finally, and I think I ate this whole plate of pawpaw pieces all by myself, and it was the most delicious fruit I've ever tasted. You wouldn't believe it. It has just imagine a super ripe avocado which has the perfect degree of ripeness. It just kind of melts in your mouth. That was the texture of this. This is a close relative to chirimoya, which you maybe have seen in the supermarket. kind of has a white flesh, big black seeds, kind of dull taste, lots of grains, not really hard grains, not good for the teeth. And this one didn't have any of that. It was like an avocado and like a tropical fruit combined in a way, like this tropical fruity taste. Amazing taste, really, really nice. So getting this award kind of felt secondary, I have to admit, to this pawpaw heaven. So I was like, oh wow, this is like one of my targets or goals in life, to eat one pawpaw. I eat like 10 pawpaws at the age of 36 and not 76. So I was really happy. So it was an amazing place to go to.
How old were these pawpaw trees?
They were about 10 years old, but they were had been on this site for just 2 years. So he buys them really, really big. Okay, they cost about between 500 and 1,000 euros a piece. But the interesting thing is that when
1,000 euros.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he puts all his money into this. He said, I don't have a crown on my account. I just bought. So I saw all these trees. And the interesting thing is, I must not forget how come he succeeded, how come nobody else has succeeded. And that's when I planted my first pawpaws in Dalarna, which is not really the best idea probably to invest money in that in Dalarna, but I had to do it. I was like, okay, this grows like really well in the Appalachians. That's where it's native. It's really hot. This tree needs a lot of sun, of course. It can't grow in the shade. It needs lots of heat. So I put them in a very sunny position. He grows them in the shadiest spots where there's a lot of moisture accumulating. It's kind of on a rocky slope, so the water that comes down the rocks kind of accumulates where the pawpaws are. And he plants them like 10-year-old trees with 1 meter in between the trees. Some of them just 50 centimeters, which means they're suddenly wind pollinated. They don't need any insects anymore. They're so close to each other that the pollen can kind of jump, however that's possible, from one flower to another. So it's just full of, I didn't bring a picture of that, it's just full of fruits underneath here. So he kind of cracked the pawpaw code for the Nordic region, apparently. Old trees, mature trees, plant them densely in a very humus-rich, fertile soil. That's where they grow in the floodplains of North America, where there's like this much, like tens of meters of rich soil, and give them lots of water, and have them in a shady position where you kind of have a diffuse light coming in, not direct sunlight. It's not good for them. And you could really tell the difference. He put them in the sunny positions as well. They were stunted, had yellow leaves, not because it was fall, but because they were stressed, and so on. And they hadn't fruited at all. So that was interesting.